Alleged September 11th mastermind Khaled Sheikh Mohammed and 4 others appeared in a military courtroom at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba for the first time since the coronavirus pandemic began. 20 years after the attacks, the US military is still in the pre-trial phase of prosecution of the suspects. The 5 are accused of war crimes in the 9/11 attacks that killed nearly 3,000 people 2 decades ago. If found guilty, they face execution. Meanwhile, human rights advocates say the trial is full of legal obstacles and it may never reach a satisfactory conclusion. The defense attorneys have tried to challenge the military commission's legitimacy to overturn the case by arguing that the CIA tortured the detainees in a secret prison before transferring them to Guantanamo. The defendants' lawyers accused the US government of bringing the 5 suspects to Guantanamo Bay to continue covering up torture. They said the government's secrecy about the use of torture is the main reason that indefinite detention still exists at Guantanamo Bay. Since its establishment, the notorious prison has been under fire for the so-called enhanced interrogation methods used on inmates to force them to confess to crimes they might not even have committed. Interrogation methods which international human rights advocates say amounted to torture.
Primarily because it's designed to be an institution through which the US subverts the law, through which the US is able to commit torture, is able essentially to go beyond what is usually permissible. So questions such as the one that you posed, while it is relevant in an ordinary set of circumstances, in an ordinary concept of the rule of law, the blunt answer is the rule of law and judicial process and the implementation of any judicial process for the US at least is irrelevant when it comes to Guantanamo Bay, or at least not a priority.
Experts say at the rate the case is proceeding, there could be another decade of procedural hearings. The Guantanamo Bay prison, also known as Gitmo, was established in southern Cuba in January 2002 to hold inmates in a place neither US nor international law applied. Since then, Guantanamo has been synonymous with human rights abuses perpetrated by the US government in the name of terrorism. At its peak, over 700 inmates have been held in the facility. However, only 7 have been convicted, including 5 as a result of pre-trial agreements under which they pleaded guilty in return for a possibility of releasing from the base. Currently, nearly 40 inmates are incarcerated in Guantanamo without any charges. They are stuck in legal limbo, languishing there for nearly 2 decades. That's while their proceedings have been delayed at the pre-trial estate for several years. That justifies why Guantanamo Bay Prison is a symbol of lingering US injustice. And while the Biden administration has said it wants to close the facility, the prison officials have confirmed that a $15 million expansion is underway, including the construction of a new courtroom and workspaces.
Well, it's only because of the power of the United States that it can continue to operate. It's clearly in violation of international law. And people are held without charge in many cases. And so it's just been a travesty, a disaster, a catastrophe for the people involved in it. And again, it's clearly not legal for the United States government to do this, to pick up people anywhere in the world, and then to hold them indefinitely, to abuse them, waterboard them, torture them in other ways, and consign them to what seems to be endless imprisonment.
With the prisoners stuck in a legal limbo, an international outcry against torture and injustice, the Guantanamo Bay prison continues to operate. It looks highly unlikely that Joe Biden will manage to remove what human rights advocates call a stain on America's global image.